Not that long ago, I was talking with someone and they told me that I did not have enough faith, which may or may not be true, but they said I didn't have enough faith, and the evidence of that was that I didn't speak in tongues. Now, I know some people will snicker at that. I don't. It just doesn't happen to be a particular gift I have, but there are people I know and respect for whom that is a gift. But it isn't one I particularly have. And so we entered in this conversation. I said, there are a lot of different gifts. And one of the things that God intends with all these different gifts that we have is to not just have the same gift. It's not to aspire to all have the same gift, but to have different gifts and take those gifts and put them together. And when we put them together, they fit together like a puzzle, and the bigger picture comes together. And the whole is more important than the individual pieces on their own. And they paused, and they thought. And then they looked me dead in the eyes and said, yeah, but tongues is the best. The underlying problem there is with the focus on I, me, my, you. It is the focus on the hyper-individualism that we believe that this Christian faith is actually about I, me, my, you, the individual thing, that there's this pursuit that we're trying to do so that we get some kind of reward at the end. And that we focus on ourselves. And when that happens, that feeds into the hyper-individualism that Western society, particularly America, advocates, which says it is all about you using what you have to make your life better. It's all about taking your talents and making the most for you and the security for you and your family and all that kind of stuff, and taking those gifts that you have and doing that. Paul, who is the author of this letter, was very familiar with this challenge, which is why he was talking to the Corinthians about this issue. So what does the fact that this group of people, this church in Corinth, having these problems, what does that have to do with us at all, or to teach us anything today? Let's take a look and find out. But first, a little context. For those of you who are not familiar, for those of you this is the first time here, one of your first few times coming here, who are not familiar, this is the way I preach. I preach with storyboards. And this is Paul. Now, this bears no historical resemblance to what Paul actually looks like. But this is how I represent Paul. I want you to get the P on there, too. He is known for his letters. Paul wrote letters to the churches that he founded throughout the world. When you hear about the letter to the Philippians, it's because it's a letter to the people of Philippi, where he established a church. And Paul established a lot of churches. And when he wasn't with one or particular, planting another or encouraging another, he would go ahead and write letters to them. And sometimes they were corrective letters, sometimes they were supportive letters, sometimes they were both. But the other thing, I have him holding the cross here because Paul was very focused on Christ and not the life and teachings of Jesus when Jesus was fully human, because Paul never encountered Jesus in Jesus' lifetime. See, Paul's encounter was after Jesus had died and was resurrected, and came in a resurrected form as an epiphany and vision to Paul. So Paul's only context for Jesus was in this Christ-like state. So he's holding on to this cross. So Paul wrote all these different letters to different places. This particular one happens to be to the people of Corinth. And so this letter goes from Paul and goes to the people of Corinth. And the people of Corinth would have gathered together, not all the people in the city, but the people who were part of this community of faith, this church that Paul had established. And they would all gather around, and someone would read it, because not everybody was literate, and whoever was would be able to go ahead and take this letter and read it to everybody, and it would be a big gathering about this letter. And in this particular letter, Paul is like, now hear this. At the very beginning of 1 Corinthians 12, verse 1. It starts with now. Now, it's not saying now is in the time, right? Have you ever had a conversation where someone's like, now, right? You know something else is coming. You know something bigger is coming. And it says, now concerning spiritual gifts, I do not want you to be uninformed. Now, why is Paul saying this to begin with? The reason Paul is saying this to begin with is because if this was a reality show today in Corinth, this would be titled Corinthians Behaving Badly. Right? Corinthians Behaving Badly would have been a brilliant reality show. Because they did a lot of that. In this particular case, in this passage, what Paul is talking about is the fact that they're fighting over who has the greatest spiritual gifts. Got a group like, we're number one, we're number one. There are these other people saying, no, you're not, we're number one, or no, we're not, or they're feeling beaten down. And the ones who have the loudest voices saying we're number one are the people who can do what? Guess. Speak in tongues. Exactly. Speak in tongues. So they're saying speaking in tongues is the best. And Paul's like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. He's like, now I told you to pay attention. Here's what I need you to hear. And so we go to verses 4 through 6 for now, and you can listen to the cadence that he has in here. Paul's really good at cadence writing when he wants to get the point across, which is very common in Jewish literature and how Jewish people wrote at that time. It says, now there are a variety of gifts, but a power word in the Bible, right? Not just a passing word, but is a power word in the Bible. Now there are a variety of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are a variety of services, but the same God. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who activates all of them in everyone. All of these gifts are the same for the same reason that all of you are good and all of you are of equal worth, because you come from God, and each of these gifts are on equal standing because all of them come from God and are breathed into people through the Holy Spirit, just like life is breathed into you and the Ruach and the Spirit of God is breathed into you when you are born. But sometimes people like to play with their own gifts alone. Is anybody familiar with the concept of parallel play? Okay, so it's a psychological thing that happens with the development of children, and it can continue unnecessarily as adults, but it's a period of time when parents might get together, or grandparents or somebody else might get children together, and they're playing together. In their minds, they're together. It's still better for them that they're not alone, but they're not like interacting and sharing things. One child is playing over here, another child is playing here, and they're both perfectly happy, and they're aware of the other one, and they're glad that the other one is there, but they're not at that stage where they are interacting, and they're using each of their gifts and each of the things that they're doing on their own. This is what that looks like when we're adults. You have your gift, and the person's perfectly happy to have their gift and use their gift, but stay in their box individually with it. And then somebody else has a gift over here, and they're perfectly happy with their gift to use it for themselves or their individual purposes and needs or their family's needs, but they keep it to themselves in their own personal box. Then what you have is people who have a gift, but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to use it. They have a gift, but they're like, how am I supposed to apply this gift? What is the place that I'm supposed to do this in the world? How am I supposed to make this of any use at all? And then you've got another category of people right here. We're like, hey, where's my gift? Right? They don't see what their gift is. They have a gift, but they don't know how to identify it. They don't know how to identify it. And sometimes that could be because the weight of the world, the weight of the things going on in their life is so heavy, they can't see how they can be of any worth to have a gift. Or they just might not be familiar with the concept of the gift and spiritual gifts and being able to change something and do something. And so they're all alone figuring this out, and they're all stuck there in their individual spaces. And Paul has something to say about this to the Corinthians, who are all like, my gift is better, my gift is better, my gift is better. And he continues on in verse 7, to each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. It's given to you not for you. It's given to you not to maximize your individual utility and happiness. It is given to you for the common good. To one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom. Here's another new cadence that he goes into. And to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit, and to another faith by the same Spirit, and to another gift, and another gift, and to another gift, and to another gift, and to another gift. All these things are activated by one and the same Spirit for the common good. Here's kind of what happens when you start taking your gifts and stop using them for your individual purposes, and you recognize that it's not about you, and you recognize that it is about community, and the community is better for you, and community is better for everybody, which is not a message that is going on in the country today. It is about dividing and taking clans and taking places and splitting us all up instead of being in community. The idea of community is an endangered concept. It is one that is even attacked and condemned, and it is antithetical. It is against a lot of the things that we feel and what we've been taught from the world, that we've got to take care of ourselves first. And that is nonsense to Jesus. It is nonsense to Paul. It is nonsense in the Bible. We are meant to be together in community, taking our gifts and sharing them, not for our own good, for the common good. And when that happens, it turns out, guess what? It turned out to be good for you too. But when you have that person who was doing the parallel play, and there were two people who had their gifts, and they knew what they were all about, and they enjoyed them, but when they bring them together, and these two people bring them together, you start to build a foundation on something. You start to build something that is stronger than each of the individual gifts on their own, because there's connective tissue, and the thing begins to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then suddenly someone who has that other gift, and they know they have this gift, but they have no idea how to apply it, suddenly when they see this foundation, like, oh, I know where my gift goes. And then suddenly when they see these things starting to be put together, that other person is like, wait, this is what they need. I can do that. The person who had no idea that they even had a gift, they start to see these other people doing this, start to interact with them, and all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I know what my purpose is now. I know how I can apply my gift to this. And you begin to build something of meaning and worth. And when you start to do it, what do you end up with? A church. A church. So what about you? What about you who are online? What about you who are going to watch this like a week from now or tomorrow recording? What about you who are all here in this sanctuary meeting room right now? What about you? What is that spiritual gift that you have that needs to be used in this community of faith? What is that spiritual gift that you have that you can bring to bear to build to this foundation, to build us up, to have people recognize that we are about the community and doing more about the community? We had an email. We're getting a strong foundation here, but we've got a place that we can go. I got an email earlier this week, and it said, we're considering coming to your church. We would like to come to your church. We're a little nervous about walking into the doors of a new place, so can you tell us a little bit about your church? Because the only thing we know about you is that you really go out and help the community. Right? That's a good brand. That's a good thing to have. And that is the beginning. That is the foundation. But now we have that foundation to be able to launch from. And if each and every one of you can identify one gift, one spiritual gift, one gift that you have, and bring that to bear here, we're going to be able to do more to grow the kingdom of God right here, right now, right in this community, and we're going to be able to tackle and show the community works, and that we're not just worried about our own survival, we're not just worried about our own success, we're not just worried about our own reputation, but we are going out there for the common good. So I am asking you, whether it takes a day, whether it takes a week, whether it takes a month, to pray on this or think about this and say, what is a gift that you can bring to bear here? And you can come to me or somebody else in this community of faith and do that. And if you have a gift that you know can apply here, and we're not doing something that utilizes this gift, we will start something. David, nail. If you have time and you have a skill and we haven't figured out how to use it yet, will we use your skill? We will take care of that problem of your time. Yes, we will. Carolyn Delgado, if you have a set of skills and you have things that you do, will we find a way to use your talents and gifts and skills in this community of faith? We will. Folks up in the audio-visual, if you have a gift and you have a skill, will we make use of what you do? Living proof. Right? If you have a gift, if you have a skill, we have things that we will create around that gift and around that skill if it's not happening now. If you have a gift that you don't know how it will apply, just show up. And you will see the movement of the Spirit showing you how that gift will apply here, not for us, for the greater good, for the common good. And if you are in that place like some of the people out in the world or in Corinth who were just feeling so down that they weren't even sure that they had anything to offer, if you are in that period of life right now where you don't think you have anything to offer, you have a gift, just show up and we will help you discover that gift, and you will be fulfilled in ways that you cannot possibly dream about. If we take these gifts and we bring them together, we will do remarkable things. And it won't be about the number of people who come here, and it won't be about the amount of money we have. It'll be how we changed your life, how we have changed other people's lives, how we will have changed this community, and we will set an example that will go well beyond this town, well beyond this state, well beyond this country. With that impact, if we do that and you bring your gift here for the common good, because that's what builds a church. And here's a little bit of an example of how you do it for ours. David? Now, you may not have been able to pick up on that yet, but that image is made up all of the images from the year in review this year. Those are thousands of little pictures put together to create that image, and there's a printed one out there and a printed one out here, and I encourage you to look up at that closely. Each of you and each of those gifts literally making up a church. Being one, recognizing one in the Spirit and the gifts that you have to bring to bear here. Bring your gifts and we will change this world when we are one. So now please rise and body your spirit as together we sing, "We are one in the Spirit." The words will be on screen.